Wow. Okay, so this episode of Dune, Prophecy. I'm still like reeling from it. It was crazy.
Yeah, it really threw us some curveballs, didn't it?
So many, and especially like with Tula and Valia. I mean, this whole episode, it really changes how we see them, especially going all the way back to their childhoods. Lankaville, like, what a place to grow up.
Yeah.
Freezing cold,
Yeah.
everyone's struggling, and even at that age, you can just see like this resentment is building in young Valia about how the Harkonnens deserve better, about how their ancestor, Abelard Harkon, he was a hero, not a coward. Like, she's so fixated on setting the record straight and getting revenge on the Atreides for spreading those lies.
Yeah, you can see that even at a young age, how that need for justice, it just fuels her ambition. And then of course her brother Griffin, he shares that fire too.
Yeah.
And it's just tragic how his attempt to confront the Atreides, it leads to his death. And that loss, I think, is really the root of Valia's deep hatred for House Atreides.
It's just heartbreaking to watch her go through all of that. And then her family ships her off to the Sisterhood on Wallach Knox, hoping it will calm her down. But even there, she's a total rebel, right?
Total rebel, yeah.
She clashes with Sister Dorothea right away because they have such different views on truth and power.
Right.
Dorothea believes in this gentle guidance, but Valia sees truth as a weapon,
Yeah.
as something to be used strategically.
Right, and you can see that clash of ideologies. It really comes out, especially during that test, when they have to meditate in the pouring rain
Oh, yeah.
so they can let go of their family ties.
I was feeling that.
It is intense.
Just watching that, I was like, I need to go meditate.
And she's the only one who can handle it. Valia is incredibly tough. And that's when she catches Mother Superior Raquella's attention.
Yeah, Rokella sees potential, right? But she also sees, ambition, which she has herself. It's like she's found a kindred spirit, you know? They both have this drive to shape the future, even if it means playing a dangerous game with humanity's fate. And remember that. That secret underground chamber with all that forbidden technology.
Yeah.
It's like this giant genetic database, a matrix with DNA from all the great houses. And Raquella trusts Valia with this knowledge,
Wow.
which shows, a lot of faith.
Yeah.
But it also reveals a darker, maybe even a more manipulative side to the sisterhood.
Definitely, yeah. They're not just these wise women offering advice. They're playing a much deeper game.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of playing games, let's not forget about Tula. Her storyline's happening at the same time.
Yes.
While Valia's training on Wallach Ninias, Tula's on this secret mission of revenge. She infiltrates this Atreides family, pretending to be someone she's not, which I find really scary.
Yeah.
Because it shows just how ambitious she is and how ruthless, just like her sister.
Oh, absolutely. But Tula is way more stealthy about it. Much more cunning. She wins over this whole Atreides clan. She even falls in love with Ori Atreides. It's like a twisted Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
And then, bam, she poisons the whole family, only sparing one young boy. My jaw literally hit the floor when that happened.
Yeah, that was a shocker.
It was brutal, and it totally changed how I saw Tula.
It really raises the question, too. Who is this Atreides boy? And why did she spare him? Could he be someone important in the present timeline? I don't know, but it's a mystery that definitely has me hooked.
Same here. Back to Valia. She eventually goes back to Lankaville, but she's, she's struggling with that whole Sisterhood Above All thing.
Yeah.
She's still so attached to her family and wants revenge for Griffin, but her family doesn't exactly welcome her back with open arms.
All right.
They blame her for Tula's actions and the Atreides massacre.
Right. It's like she can't win.
Yeah.
They're blaming her for both things.
She ends up completely isolated and desperate.
You can feel that isolation, too, in that scene where she's arguing with her mother.
Yeah.
You can feel the weight of her family's legacy on her. It's like she's carrying the burden of their past failures.
Totally. And in her desperation, she tries to undergo the agony ritual, that crazy thing that the Bene Gesserit do.
Oh, yeah.
To become Reverend Mothers by herself.
I know. It's like, is she really going to do this?
It's crazy. She almost dies. But guess who saves her?
Tula.
It was such a powerful moment, I thought. It shows this bond between them. Despite their very different paths, they've both been through so much. But they still have each other's backs.
Yeah.
By the end of the episode, the Valia's back at the Sisterhood, transformed. She's a Reverend Mother, and it seems like she's ready to take on the world.
Yeah, she's definitely a force to be reckoned with. But we're left with so many unanswered questions, you know?
So many.
Like, what did she see during the agony? What changed her so much? And what about that vision she had of the Baron Harkonnen?
Ugh, so creepy.
Yeah, it seems like the show is really starting to explore the darker side of the Harkonnens.
Yeah, and speaking of dark sides, what about Tula in the present? She's grieving for Leela, obviously, but she's also keeping her alive with that forbidden technology. It makes you wonder if she's going rogue. Like, is she breaking away from the Sisterhood?
It's a huge red flag, isn't it? It suggests she might be willing to, break the rules, even the Sisterhood's most sacred ones, to achieve her goals. And it really makes you wonder what she's really planning and how far she'll go.
This episode, it really threw so many curveballs at us. I can't wait to see how they all play out.
I know, me too.
There were so many moments that I'm going to go back and watch again. Like when Valia first arrived on Wallach Nyax, they showed the Sisterhood training with these weird weapons.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
What were those things? Do you think we'll see them again?
Good catch. I totally missed that. It's like, the episode is packed with little Easter eggs like that. That hint at the larger world of Dune. It makes me want to go back and rewatch the whole series now to see if there are other clues we missed.
I'm with you there. What about that conversation between Valia and the Mother Superior? About the Kwisatz Haderach.
Oh, yeah.
That was intense. They mentioned the Sisterhood had been trying to create one for generations.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that ties into the present-day storyline with Leela?
That's an interesting connection. It seems like the show is setting up a big reveal about the Kwisatz Haderach. And I wonder if Leela is somehow connected to that prophecy. And if so, what does that mean for the future of the Sisterhood? This episode really makes you think about the long game that they've been playing. It's like they're orchestrating events across generations, all in pursuit of their mysterious goals.
They're definitely not just a bunch of nuns hanging out in the desert, are they?
No, they're not.
They've got serious power.
Yeah.
And influence. And this episode, I feel like, really blew the lid off of all their secrets.
It did.
And I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface.
I agree. This episode feels like a major turning point in the series. It's like we're finally starting to see the bigger picture. And I wonder, what role will Valia and Tula play in all of this? Will they be allies? Or will their ambition ultimately pit them against each other?
Those are great questions. I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens next week.
Yeah.
This episode was a roller coaster ride. And I have a feeling that twists and turns are just getting started.
I'm sure they are.
Before we move on to part 2, what stood out to you the most in this episode?
That's a tough one. There are so many great moments, but I think what really stuck with me was Valia's resilience, even when faced with betrayal and loss. She never gives up on her goals. She's a total badass.
I love that about her, too. She's definitely a character you can't help but root for, even when she's making,
questionable.
Jadis. Speaking of questionable choices, what about Tula's decision to poison that entire Atreides family?
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty cold-blooded.
It was, even for her.
Yeah, that scene definitely left me speechless. It showed how far she's willing to go to achieve her objectives. I'm curious to see how that ruthlessness plays out in the present-day storyline.
Me too. It sets the stage for some major conflict, that's for sure.
This is Dune, after all.
Right.
Anything is possible. Before we jump into part 2, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment telling us what you thought of this crazy episode. We love hearing your theories and predictions for what's to come.
Yes, we'll be back soon to break down even more of Dune. Prophecies, stay tuned.
All right, so picking up where we left off, there are just so many big mysteries and questions from part 1. I'm still trying to wrap my head around Tula's decision to poison the Atreides. Like, what was going through her mind in that moment?
I know, right? It's so hard to say. She's so good at hiding her true motive.
But I think it shows just how deeply that Harkonnen thirst for revenge runs in her. I mean, remember when she looked up at that ball on the cliff after the poisoning?
Yeah.
It was almost like she was seeking approval from some ancient Harkonnen spirit.
That was a chilling image. It really emphasized that legacy of violence that hangs over both Valia and Tula. And I wonder if that legacy is something they can ever truly escape, or if it's ultimately going to consume them.
Ooh, that's a good point. Speaking of being consumed, what do you think Valia saw during the agony? It seemed like it really changed her.
Yeah, it must have been intense. The agony, I mean, it's basically a ritual where the Bene Gesserit confront the memories and personalities of all their female ancestors. It's like this massive download of genetic memory. And it can be incredibly traumatic.
So it's no wonder she looked so different afterwards.
Right.
Makes you wonder how much of her personality is actually her own, and how much is influenced by the generations of Bene Gesserit who came before her.
Exactly. It's like the agony forces them to confront the darkest parts of their heritage. And in Valya's case, that heritage is steeped in Harkonnen ruthlessness. So, I mean, it's not surprising that she comes out of the experience even more determined and ambitious.
It's crazy to think that she went through that alone, too.
Mm.
Talk about willpower. Most Bene Gesserit need guidance from a Reverend Mother to survive the agony. But Valya just does it by herself.
I know.
It takes serious guts.
It does. It speaks to her incredible strength and determination. It also makes me worry about her, you know?
That's so.
It's like she's pushing herself to the limit, and it's only a matter of time before she breaks.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, she's so focused on power and revenge that she might be losing sight of herself. But it makes me wonder if she'll end up as ruthless and unforgiving as the Baron Harkonnen himself. Remember that vision she had of him during the agony?
Oh, yeah.
So creepy.
Yeah, it was like a terrifying ghost from her past. And it makes me wonder if the Baron's influence is going to continue to haunt Valya, even as she climbs the ranks of the Sisterhood. Could he be a threat to her in some way?
Oh, that would be intense. It'd be like a psychological horror movie playing out in her mind. Speaking of psychological horror, let's talk about Tula's decision to keep Leela alive, using that forbidden technology. What is she up to?
I have no idea. That was a mind-blowing twist. It goes against everything the Bene Gesserit supposedly stand for. They believe in accepting death as a natural part of life. But Tula is basically playing God, and it makes you wonder, what's her endgame? Is she trying to cheat death, or is something else going on?
I have no idea. It's like she's gone completely off the rails. It makes me think back to that Atreides massacre. Remember how she seemed to take a twisted pleasure in it?
Yeah.
It's like there's this dark side to Tula that's starting to emerge.
That's a chilling thought. It makes me wonder, what if her actions with Leela are just the beginning? What if she's planning something even more drastic?
Oh, that would be insane.
Yeah.
Especially with the power she now has access to. I mean, she's stolen the key to the Sisterhood's most guarded secrets.
She has.
She could do some serious damage with that technology.
No kidding. Remember that conversation between Valya and the Mother Superior about the Kwisatz Haderach?
Yeah.
They mentioned the Sisterhood had been trying to create one for generations. What if Tula decides to use that technology to try and create a Kwisatz Haderach herself?
Whoa, that would be a game changer. Imagine the power she would have if she could control someone like that. It would completely disrupt the balance of power in the Imperium.
It's a terrifying thought, but also kind of exciting.
In a morbid way.
Yes, in a morbid way. It's like we're witnessing the birth of a new era of Bene Gesserit manipulation.
Totally, and I'm sure it won't be pretty. But let's not forget about the other players in this game. What about Desmond Harkonnen? He's still lurking in the shadows, and it seems like he's got his own agenda.
Oh, don't even get me started on Desmond. That guy gives me the creeps. He's like a shark circling the Sisterhood, just waiting for the right moment to strike. And with all the chaos that's brewing, I have a feeling that moment is coming soon.
I totally agree. He's definitely a wild card. And remember how easily he shrugged off Valya's use of the voice?
I know, it was terrifying.
He's definitely not someone to be underestimated.
You said it. He's got his own kind of power. And it seems to be connected to some ancient Harkonnen secrets. And I wonder if those secrets might ultimately give him an edge over the Bene Gesserit.
That would be a major twist. It's like this episode has set up all these pieces on the board, and we're just waiting to see how they'll move. It's a chess game of epic proportions.
Absolutely. And the stakes are higher than ever. We're talking about the fate of the Imperium here. Who will come out on top? Will it be Valya, Tula, Desmond, or someone we haven't even met yet?
This suspense is killing me.
Yeah.
I can't wait to find out. But before we delve into the next part, there are a couple of things I want to circle back to.
Okay.
First, that scene where Valya confronts Desmond in the garden.
Oh, yeah.
Intense.
So intense.
I could feel the tension through the screen.
Yeah, you could cut the tension with a knife. It was like watching two masterminds trying to outmaneuver each other. And for a moment there, it seemed like Valya might actually win. Remember how she used the voice on him? It was like she was reaching into his mind, trying to unravel his secret.
Totally. And for a second, it seemed like he was actually going to spill his guts, but then he just snapped out of it. It was like a switch flipped.
Yeah.
And he went from, vulnerable to menacing in an instant.
That's what makes Desmond so unsettling. He's got this air of unpredictability. You never know what he's going to do next. And the fact that he can resist the voice, it makes him even more dangerous. Like he's got this hidden power that even the Bene Gesserit haven't figured out yet.
I wonder if his ability to resist the voice has anything to do with those ancient Harkonnen secrets you mentioned earlier. Maybe there's a connection there.
That's an interesting idea. It would make sense if the Harkonnens had developed some way to protect themselves from the Bene Gesserit's mental manipulation. I mean, after all, they've been rivals for centuries.
And if Desmond has access to those secrets,
yeah,
he could be a serious threat to the Sisterhood. It's like we're seeing the beginning of a power struggle that could reshape the entire Imperium. And speaking of power struggles, let's talk about the other major conflict brewing. Valia versus Tula.
Oh, yeah. That's the real showdown I'm waiting for, you know? These two sisters, they're both so ambitious and driven, and they both have very different visions for the future. It's like a classic sibling rivalry, but with galaxy-sized stakes.
Exactly, and we've already seen how far each of them is willing to go to achieve their goals. Valia is willing to defy her family and risk her life to become a reverend mother, and Tula is willing to poison an entire household and manipulate forbidden technology.
Right.
Who knows what they'll do to each other when they're on opposite sides of the battlefield.
It's like a recipe for disaster, and I can't wait to see how it all explodes. But before we get to part 3, there's one more scene I want to revisit. Remember when Tula told the other sisters that they had to let Leela go?
Oh, yeah. That was heartbreaking.
It was.
Especially for Jen. She was so devastated by Leela's death. It made me wonder if Tula was actually grieving at all, or if he was just putting on a show to the other sisters.
It's hard to tell what Tula's really feeling. She's so good at hiding her emotions, but I think there's a part of her that's genuinely sad about Leela's death. I mean, after all, they were close.
I guess we'll have to wait and see how that plays out in the next part. I'm dying to know what Tula's real plan is for Leela, and what about that weird technology she's using to keep her alive? Do you think it's the same technology Raquel was using to create the genetic index?
That's a great question. It definitely seems like a possibility. If Tula has access to that kind of technology, she could be incredibly dangerous. She could potentially rewrite the genetic code of the Imperium. The implications are mind-boggling.
This is getting intense. I can't wait to see what happens next. But before we dive into the final part of this episode, what about those training scenes on Wallach Nyax? I was totally fascinated by those weird weapons the Sisterhood was using. Do you think they have any significance in the larger Dune universe?
I'm so glad you brought that up. Those weapons were definitely intriguing. They looked like a cross between a whip and a sword, and the way the sisters were using them, it was mesmerizing. I did a little digging, and it turns out those weapons are called Krisk knives.
That's nice.
Yeah. They're forged from the teeth of sandworms, and they're incredibly deadly. In the books, they're mostly used by Fremen warriors, but it looks like the Sisterhood has incorporated them into their own training regimen.
That's so cool. It's like the show is giving us these little glimpses into the wider world of Dune. And it makes me wonder, what other secrets and surprises are waiting for us in future episodes? I have a feeling we've only just scratched the surface of this story.
I completely agree. This episode was packed with so much foreshadowing and world building. It's like a treasure trove of clues, and I can't wait to see how it all connects to the larger Dune saga. But for now, we'll have to take a short one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon to wrap up our discussion of this incredible episode.
Be sure to stick around for part 3, where we'll delve into our predictions for the future of Dune, Prophecy. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment telling us your theories. We love hearing from you. We'll be right back.
All right, so we spent a lot of time now talking about Valia and Tula, their pasts, you know, how they grew up, their ambitions, and really I think their potential for both good and evil. But looking ahead, what do you think is in store for these two sisters and really for the Imperium as a whole?
Well, it definitely feels like things are coming to a head. You know, we've got Valia back at the Sisterhood. She's consolidating her power. She's diving deeper into all their secrets. And then on the other hand, we've got Tula, who's going rogue. She's breaking all their most sacred rules, and she's potentially unlocking even more dangerous technology. It's like they're both on a collision course, and when they clash, I think it's going to be epic.
Yeah, I agree. It's like watching two two powerful storms converging. And remember, they're not just fighting for themselves, right? They're fighting for the future of their families, the future of the Bene Gesserit, and maybe even like the future of the Imperium itself. The stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah, it's like a Game of Thrones, but with psychic powers and giant sandworms. And then we can't forget about Desmond Harkonnen. He's still lurking in the shadows with his own mysterious agenda. He's a wild card, and I have a feeling he's going to throw a wrench into everyone's plans.
Desmond is definitely a force to be reckoned with, you know? And the fact that he can resist the voice makes him even more dangerous. It's like he's got a hidden ace up his sleeve, and we're all just waiting to see what it is. I have a feeling he's going to play a much bigger role in the coming episodes.
I think so, too. And don't forget, he's got those ancient Harkonnen secrets that we keep hinting at. What if those secrets give him the power to actually challenge the Bene Gesserit's dominance? That would really shake things up.
It would be a total game changer. It's like you're seeing the pieces being set for a major showdown between the Harkonnens and the Bene Gesserit, and with Valia and Tula on opposite sides, who knows who will come out on top?
I have no idea. It's like trying to predict the path of a sandworm, but I have a feeling it's going to be a wild ride. I keep thinking back to that scene where Valia had that vision of the Baron Harkonnen during the agony. It was like he was reaching out from beyond the grave, trying to influence her. What if he's somehow still alive, pulling strings from the shadows?
That would be insane. But, you know, it's Dune. It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility in this universe, right?
Right.
I mean, remember, death isn't always the end. You've got spice, genetic manipulation, all sorts of crazy stuff that could keep someone alive long past their natural lifespan.
I wonder if that's what Tula's trying to do with Leela. Maybe she's not just trying to, keep her alive. Maybe she's trying to unlock some kind of hidden potential within her. Remember all that talk about the Kwisatz Haderach? What if Leela is somehow connected to that prophecy?
That's a fascinating theory. It would certainly explain Tula's willingness to, break all the Sisterhood's rules. If she believes that Leela is the key to fulfilling that prophecy, she might be willing to do anything to protect her, even if it means going against the entire Bene Gesserit order.
It's like the lines between good and evil are getting so blurred in this show. Who are we supposed to root for? The ambitious sister who's willing to sacrifice everything for power? The cunning sister who's willing to manipulate life and death? Or the mysterious Harkonnen who seems to be playing a game that no one else understands?
That's what makes this show so compelling, isn't it?
Yeah.
There are no easy answers, no clear heroes or villains. It's all about shades of gray. And the choices we make when we're faced with these impossible dilemmas, it's like a giant morality play. But set in this universe of space travel and psychic powers.
Love it. It makes you think. It keeps you guessing.
Yeah.
I have no idea what's going to happen next. But I know it's going to be epic. And I can't wait to see how it all plays out.
Me neither. But sadly, we've got to wrap up our deep dive for today. We've barely even scratched the surface of all the mysteries and theories that this episode sparked. But we hope we've given you plenty to think about.
Absolutely. This episode was a total game changer. It blew our minds. And we're still trying to process all the twists and turns. But what about you? What stood out to you the most? What are your theories about what's to come? Let us know in the comments below.
Yes, we love hearing from you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more recaps and discussions of your favorite TV shows. We'll be back soon with another episode of Dune. Prophecy. Until then, may the spice flow.